the nature of your emergency?
Welcome back to the Tactical Living Podcast. I'm your host, Ashley Walton, joined by Sergeant Walton. Clint, how are you?
I'm excellent.
You know, I feel like this entire year has actually gone by not slow, but like the normal speed that it should. And now that we reach September is just zipping by, and I feel like the rest of the year is going to go by even quicker.
I know. I was thinking that earlier. It's like this year's gone by like it seems like it should have been at a normal speed, but then all of a sudden, like August came and September zipped through so fast, and it's just flying by now. Something
that I've liked about this year is getting to spend as much time as we have with our friends.
Yeah, I think it's been a good change with certain aspects to one, schedules, availabilities, and everything like that, to be able to spend just that really personal time with them.
Yeah, talking about friends, I think that something that a lot of people don't talk about is the caution that you need to take when it comes to making friends at your place of work.
Yeah, I think over time you start getting too overly comfortable with one another to where you're willing to take your friendship over, your responsibility, and being able to get caught up in that dynamic to where, say, if they do something wrong, you're going to support them over doing what's right.
I've titled today's episode The Loyalty Trap, When Brotherhood Becomes Blind Obedience. And I think that, especially working in law enforcement, having each other's back is essentially the cornerstone of the job. But a lot of people don't talk about when that bond crosses into an element of blind obedience.
Yeah, I think over time, and I can think of a handful of situations to where you'll see partners, okay, how are we going to articulate this to the sergeant? How are we going to do this? And instead of saying, hey, you kind of screwed up there, let's fix this.
I think that sometimes, like, this doesn't necessarily have to just apply to the people that you're friends with at work. It can apply to the blind obedience that we have in our friend circle, period. There was a time a long, long time ago when you and I were friends with somebody and we went over to their house. We're all cooking dinner together. I opened up the pantry to look for something, and the first thing that I see is about maybe 50 giant tubs of the huge Skippy peanut butters. And I look over at my friend, basically like, did you open a market? And they told me that because they were on WIC that they get it for free, so they might as well just take it anyways. And that was the starting point of us basically not becoming friends with them anymore, because other things similar to that, that just started to drift away from our morals and our values. And so, we weren't necessarily silent about things either. I've never been one to be silent about something like that. And so I think that there is this really fine line when it comes to solidarity and silence, especially in your place of work, because it can become more difficult.
Yeah, I think with being silent, you're exposing your own values and your own integrity over certain instances. And this isn't with every instance, but this is if you see something wrong and you don't speak up to it, you're just as complacent as the person doing it.
Yeah, and we can talk about the double-edged sword of brotherhood and sisterhood if you want. One side, you have the fact that loyalty builds trust and reliability and connection in dangerous environments. I personally love knowing of certain partners that you have really good rapport and relationship with. And the flip side of that is I feel very uncomfortable knowing if you're working with a partner who's a fucking jackass. And so the other side of that sword is the whole I've got your back could be taken too far. And this can create expectation of compliance even when those actions might not sit right with you.
Yeah, and I think it's important, especially to surround yourself with people that hold your own morals and values to heart, because one, if they're a true friend, if they're a true partner, they're never going to put you in a situation to where you would have to worry about having issues with those morals or values. Because if if it's a true brotherhood or sisterhood, then you guys should be on the same page when it comes to doing right compared to doing something wrong.
Yeah, and I think that loyalty has this way of silencing ethical concerns too, because officers might hesitate to call out misconduct that they might see in somebody because they don't want to have that sort of element of betrayal of their brother or their sister in uniform. And over time, this can silence and even normalize behavior that erodes that moral character.
Yeah, and I think it's very few and far between that you would have these instances, but it happens, and it happens within any realm, first responder realm, or just in the private markets. Like, you have to be able to stand up for what's right, just like we do on a regular basis.
My personal morals and values come first. And so going back to the peanut butter scenario, I feel like there's a lot of personal cost of blind obedience when things like loyalty trump your personal values, because it can create this internal conflict and stress. So imagine how it would feel to, this is somebody, they were in our wedding, like this is somebody that's close to you, and all of a sudden you open up their pantry and you see something like that and you call it out, and their response is something that doesn't align with your values, right? To me, that's like stealing. That's like stealing from people who need it. That's like stealing from the taxpayers. And so having you would get that sense of, wait a second, something's not right, even though that's your friend or your best friend. And so when that sensation comes up, that is our instincts that are telling us like, hey, Ash, it's time to pay attention. Something isn't aligned with you here. And, as I say this, that you might be totally cool if you opened up your best friend's pantry and saw the peanut butter. Maybe they would share it. Actually, they asked, like, do you want some? And we said no. And you're going to get that sensation that comes up explaining to you, like, wait a second, this is a red flag.
Yeah, being able to recognize that and start making those changes and impacting that. I'm bringing it to light to them, saying, hey, this isn't right. How can we fix this?
Another thing that we see is a lot of times in admin, because I get this complaint a lot, they will be buddy-buddy and they kind of create their own hierarchy that's incredibly evident as to the high horse that they're riding versus everybody else that's beneath them. And when that happens, you have these real world consequences, because a lot of times departments will lose their credibility when wrongdoers go and challenge, not only on a social scale in the community, sometimes nationwide, sometimes worldwide, but also with the other officers or other people that are working underneath them.
Yeah, it's being able to recognize that and I think it's the hardest thing to do, is to stand up for your own morals and values and be able to affect that change. But it's recognizing where that problem lies and bringing it to their attention and saying, look, hey, this is kind of jacked up. Because when we start going down that same path, then we're just as guilty as them.
Yeah, we've seen the crazy stories that have unfolded within departments, especially. Departments are like high school.
So just as we think high school, I go even lower, junior high, because it's even worse at that level.
And, these scandals sometimes, they go deep, right? I love true crime. So I've seen some situations where it will be like the police chief, then you have a lieutenant, then you have a sergeant, then you have like 5 other officers, and they're all in the clique together. And then this massive scandal happens and it makes headlines, and they were all friends and they made this pact to not say anything together. And then there was the whispering from the rest of the department knowing that they were doing wrong. And it turns into this massive scandal, and, lawsuits could happen. You could break your public trust, and it could be not just from one act, but that culture of silence that surrounds it.
Yeah, and it's being able to, I've thought about different scenarios throughout my career and being able to is there something illegal that affected me to where I could spin up a lawsuit on this wrongdoing? Because there's so many people who don't want to step up and make a change, and you have to be brave to actually step forward in these instances.
I think sometimes we have to redefine loyalty in a healthy way whenever that happens. And maybe it's just a one-off and then you don't see it happening again. And so, okay, cool. I'm glad it didn't happen again. But I think true loyalty means protecting each other's well-being and not covering for harmful behavior. If I am with you and you are my friend, or you are my really close partner, I want you to call me out on my bullshit.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's never easy to hear, especially when someone close to you is calling you out on your bullshit. But it's being able to accept that and adapt to it and make that change.
Yeah. And if that person has an ego that, they take it too far and they're not receptive to that, then it might be time to reevaluate those people that you're close with at work. I hope you've gotten some value out of today's episode. If you have, do us a favor, drop a review, subscribe down below. And as always, know that I'm sending you a long, tight hug from my home to yours.